This sci-fi and adventure story begins with the appearance of an alien so strange, living on a different planet. At first glance, it looked very human-like, but possibly more intelligent. After all, scientists believe that any alien life discovered so far is significantly more advanced than humans, especially in terms of intelligence and technology. But for some unknown reason, this alien drinks a black-colored liquid. That liquid triggers a reaction throughout its body. As a result of the reaction, its entire body begins to decompose. The alien falls from the height of a mountain, and its body starts dissolving completely. It now appears that the alien is dead. However, its DNA is still alive. The tiny DNA fragments spread across the planet. Maybe this was part of the aliens' plan, to spread their species. But behind all this lies a bigger and more dangerous secret that will soon be uncovered. A few more years pass, and now we're shown a spaceship traveling through space on a specific mission, heading toward a particular planet. Inside this spaceship is a humanoid robot named David. His job is to monitor and manage all systems while the astronauts rest in their sleeping chambers. David's mind is highly advanced, he was designed that way. He spends his free time playing games and studying human history and languages, especially ancient ones. But as they say, highly advanced robots often rebel against their creators. And David, too, will eventually do something similar, something none of the astronauts could foresee. This spaceship is headed toward the planet believed to be the home of our gods, the beings who created humanity. After many years of travel, they finally get close to the planet. At that point, David wakes all the astronauts from their sleeping chambers. Everyone quickly gets to work and starts preparing. They are also extremely hungry, so they gather to eat. Among them is a captain who's busy setting up a Christmas tree. Just then, their mission manager, Meredith, arrives. Her job is to ensure that all astronauts properly carry out their assigned duties and to supervise and prepare reports. Once everything is ready, everyone is called into the meeting area. Meredith presents a holographic image of an elderly man named Peter. Peter is actually the CEO of the private organization funding this entire mission, with the goal of exploring that mysterious planet. Though Peter is now dead, he passed away years ago on Earth. He had already pre-recorded this hologram to guide and inform the astronauts. Elizabeth and Charlie, the two researchers, now step forward and explain their findings to the team. They display several ancient artifacts collected from different parts of Earth, reinforcing their theory that all these symbols and signs are connected to a greater cosmic mystery. Ancient artworks were carved into these objects, and when combined, they revealed coordinates. When these coordinates were checked across the universe, they were found to point toward a specific planet. That's why this mission was launched, to travel to that planet with a team of astronauts and investigate. Peter's main goal was to discover the creators of humanity. And now, the good news was that they were very close to reaching that planet. They needed to perform their tasks with precision and send every detail back to Earth. Next, we see Meredith taking Elizabeth and Charlie into a separate room. There, Elizabeth notices a medical chamber that seemed extremely expensive. It had the potential to cure any disease, even cancer. Meredith was giving Elizabeth and Charlie special treatment, but with one condition: whatever they discovered, they had to report it directly to Earth's headquarters. Even if the upcoming journey would be dangerous or tragic, which it surely would be, the mission had to be completed no matter what. Now, they were slowly entering the atmosphere of the planet, which was quite dense. After using several radio signals and scanning systems, they discovered that there were no signs of life here. That meant nobody currently lived on this planet. All the astronauts suited up in their spacesuits, even David, the robot. He didn't need it, but he still wore it to blend in and behave like a human. As the spaceship approached the planet closely, Charlie noticed strange markings on the ground. He was shocked. Such markings couldn't be natural. They had to be man-made or alien-made. As they looked ahead, they saw a large dome-shaped structure. No one knew what was inside the dome or how it was built. But thanks to their advanced systems, the astronauts discovered that the dome was completely hollow from the inside. They quickly landed their spaceship and grabbed their devices to head into the dome. One of the astronauts, named Renfield, released some flying probe devices that would scan the entire structure and create a holographic map of it. The captain inside the ship monitored all of it. Clearly, these astronauts came well prepared. As they moved deeper into the dome, they encountered structures that appeared to be affecting the levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the environment. Charlie observed that the oxygen level was increasing, meaning it would be safe for humans to breathe naturally. Taking a calculated risk, he removed his helmet. Everyone tried to stop him, but Charlie turned out to be right. He could breathe perfectly without the helmet. Seeing that, the others also removed their helmets and were able to breathe just fine. As they continued exploring, David approached a wall with some strange symbols. His vast knowledge of ancient languages allowed him to read and decode the inscriptions. There, he also found some sticky substances and matched certain patterns on the wall. Suddenly, changes began to occur. Holographic images started rushing toward them from the front. The astronauts were briefly startled. Soon they realized these holographic images depicted the aliens who once lived here, images of them running toward another location within the planet. The astronauts had no idea what was happening, so they started following the holograms. All the holograms stopped near a wall, where the dead body of an alien lay. It seemed the alien had died right by the door. Renfield, one of the astronauts, expressed his fear, saying this was nothing like what they were told. Earlier signals had shown that no life forms existed on this planet, but seeing the skeleton made it clear there might be something alive on the other side of that door. Still, they couldn't just abandon the mission, they were being paid for this. Suddenly, David, thinking on his own, opened the door. As it opened, they found the alien's head lying on the other side. Its head was large and bizarre, almost as if it was wearing a helmet. But what lay beyond the door shocked everyone. There were structures that looked nearly human in shape. On the floor were several cylindrical objects, whose purpose no one could understand. David shone a light on the cylinders, and they began to react, as if the environmental change was triggering them. The flying probe ball scanned the entire room and transmitted data to the captain aboard the spaceship. Finding such a large quantity of alien objects was an extremely rare discovery. In a way, they had just made one of the greatest scientific finds in history. Elizabeth looked upward and noticed even more changes. She sensed that something was about to go very wrong. So she warned everyone that they should collect samples and leave quickly. Charlie and Elizabeth took the alien's head with them. David, for reasons unknown, took one of the cylinders and secretly placed it in his bag, without receiving any orders. It was as if he now followed his own will. Meanwhile, the captain and Meredith were aboard the spaceship when they spotted a sandstorm approaching. The storm was extremely intense, so the captain alerted all astronauts. "You have a few minutes, get back to the ship within that time, or we won't be able to save you from the storm." Elizabeth, Charlie, and the others began racing back with their collected samples. They rode their rovers at full speed toward the spaceship. The sandstorm was closing in fast. All of them were taken to the decontamination chamber, where the alien particles were removed from their bodies. This step was critical because no one knew what kind of microbes might exist on this planet. If any microscopic organism stuck to their bodies, it could be dangerous for everyone. Back in the lab, the alien's head was brought in for study. Charlie and other team members were present as they scanned it. The scan revealed that what they thought was the alien's head was actually a helmet. The real head was inside. They carefully removed the helmet, and finally, the alien's real face was revealed. Now the astronauts and researchers had access to some truly advanced technology to begin their analysis. This was a kind of advanced technology that could momentarily revive a human or animal by sending electric shocks to their brain after death. The same was attempted with the alien's head. When they provided electric shocks, the alien literally began to open its eyes. It looked like it was about to come back to life. But after a few moments, some kind of unexpected and dangerous reaction began. The alien's head went completely out of control and exploded shortly after. This was the first time the astronauts had witnessed something like this. But what they didn't know was that none of them would survive in the long run. But they had no idea that behind the scenes, David, the robot, was planning something sinister. The cylindrical object David had brought back was carefully preserved. David, without any hesitation, opened the cylindrical object. Inside, he found a black liquid. David sensed that this liquid contained some form of DNA. But he wasn't sure who to test it on. So, without giving it much thought, David took a small drop of the DNA-laced liquid, mixed it into a drink, and gave it to Charlie. That means now the alien DNA was inside Charlie's body. Charlie then went to see his girlfriend, Elizabeth. They were both happy, thinking their mission had been successful. They believed they'd return to Earth with positive results. Overcome with joy, they embraced and enjoyed the moment together. Meanwhile, the next morning, Charlie woke up feeling very sick. His eyes had turned completely red. But he didn't pay much attention to it. By now, the storm outside had settled. This was the perfect time to go rescue Renfield and Milburn. The captain told everyone to gear up, and all of them put on their spacesuits and headed back to the dome. David followed them quietly. However, after some time, David split off and went in another direction. He kept providing information to Meredith, but soon he reached a strange chamber, and then stopped transmitting signals to her. This was a bizarre chamber filled with multiple sleeping pods. These looked like devices once used by the aliens for hibernation. Without informing anyone, David began to explore them. David had deep knowledge of ancient technologies, and using that knowledge, he pressed a few buttons. Suddenly, holographic images began to appear all around him, depicting the entire universe. From this, David understood what the aliens had planned. Earth was also part of this planetary system. David even saw one sleeping pod that was glowing, suggesting the alien inside might still be alive. Intrigued, he began attempting to open it. Meanwhile, the captain's team arrived at the dome and found Milburn's dead body. Everyone was shocked, and they began talking about leaving the place immediately. They had also spotted the small alien creature that had killed him. But things got worse when Charlie's condition began to deteriorate rapidly. His eyes had turned blood red. Elizabeth and the others decided to take Charlie back to the spaceship. But little did they know, this situation was going to become critical for them. On the way, they noticed that Charlie's skin was transforming. Unknown to them, but known to us, it was due to the alien DNA that David had secretly mixed into Charlie's drink. Once they reached the spaceship, Meredith appeared, armed with a flamethrower. It was obvious, she didn't want any infected person aboard the ship. She was prepared to kill Charlie. The captain and Elizabeth tried to stop Meredith from doing this. But perhaps Charlie already knew he wasn't going to survive. So he willingly walked straight into the flamethrower's path. Poor infected Charlie was burned alive in the most horrific way. Back inside, David was scanning Elizabeth's body to check if she, too, was infected. But instead, the results revealed something shocking: she was already several months pregnant. Elizabeth was utterly confused. How could this be happening so soon? It had only been a few days since they'd awoken from the cryosleep pods. It became clear, she had become pregnant during her time with Charlie, when he was already infected. The fetus growing inside her was an alien hybrid. Terrified, Elizabeth demanded the fetus be removed immediately. But David, with his own agenda, gave her a sedative that put her to sleep. Later, when some researchers came to wake her, Elizabeth pretended to be unconscious, then suddenly fought back and escaped. Ran straight into a chamber where some researchers were present. There, she learned a shocking truth. The company's CEO, Peter, was still alive. He had been inside one of the extra sleeping pods the whole time. That meant he had secretly been on the spaceship from the beginning. Peter revealed everything to Elizabeth, how he had always wanted to come to this planet, knowing that beings more advanced than humans lived here. His mission was to meet them and learn everything about human civilization from them. David already knew about all of this, and he had been helping Peter all along. Now, David had even discovered the exact location where an alien was still alive. They were planning to go there, wake it up, and ask it many questions. But Elizabeth felt something was wrong. She tried to stop them, warning that these aliens could be extremely dangerous. However, no one paid attention to her. David began preparing to take Peter to that location. Soon after, Meredith also arrived to help her father, Peter. Yes, Peter was her father. She insisted they should not go, fearing that infection could spread again, just like it had with Charlie's body. But Peter dismissed even his daughter's concerns. Elizabeth immediately went to the captain and revealed everything about Peter's true intentions. The captain was terrified. He said, "These beings cannot be our creators or gods. They are a dangerous alien species beyond anyone's control." This was why the captain wanted to return to Earth. He didn't want to stay here even for a second. But Elizabeth didn't want them to make a terrible mistake. So now she, too, decided to enter the dome and sabotage their plan, so that humanity wouldn't be endangered in the future. Meanwhile, David, Peter, and the rest of the group geared up and entered the dome. David told everyone to remove their helmets, saying the alien virus doesn't spread through air, but rather only through that cylindrical object. Elizabeth followed them quietly, determined to uncover the truth. David entered the control room and began activating various systems on his own. Signals started emitting from the entire structure, which were detected by the captain and Meredith. That's when they discovered the shocking truth: the dome was actually a massive donut-shaped spaceship. David then began opening the sleeping chamber that contained the last remaining alien. Within moments, the alien woke up. Elizabeth tried to communicate with the alien, but she was attacked and silenced. David stepped forward and used the ancient language to tell the alien, "We brought you back to life." But the alien didn't care. Without warning, it crushed David's head. It then killed Peter in one swift move and began attacking Elizabeth and the others. Bullets had no effect on the alien. Elizabeth now realized, this was not their god. This was a species bent on pure destruction. Elizabeth fled for her life. She had learned a horrifying truth that she needed to share with the captain. But before she could, the alien went to the control room and activated the spaceship. The entire dome-shaped structure began to lift off. It was breaking apart, putting Elizabeth's life in danger. She barely managed to jump to the other side just in time. Elizabeth immediately contacted the captain and Meredith. She explained everything: how the holographic images clearly showed that the alien species was heading toward Earth to destroy everything. This alien civilization would not let any other life form survive. They traveled across the universe, annihilating species wherever they went. Now, the only way to stop them was to destroy this spaceship before it reached Earth. The captain and the others understood the severity of the situation. However, Meredith suggested that they quietly escape. But the captain overrode her command. He launched their own spaceship and headed straight toward the alien ship with his team. Meredith realized they would not back down, so she descended in the escape pod to avoid the battle. The captain and the remaining crew members were ready to sacrifice themselves. Their only mission was to save Earth at any cost. Without wasting time, they rammed their spaceship straight into the alien vessel. Both ships began to collapse and crash down to the ground with immense impact. Elizabeth and Meredith tried to escape to save their lives, but sadly, Meredith didn't survive. Elizabeth, however, managed to survive by hiding behind a large rock. The alien spaceship was completely destroyed, which meant Earth was now finally safe. Later, Elizabeth went back to check on the spaceship and see if any of her crew members had survived. But suddenly, she started hearing strange noises. When she looked inside one of the chambers, she discovered that the small alien creature had now grown into a massive, terrifying form. At that very moment, David, whose head had been ripped off, somehow managed to reconnect with Elizabeth and warned her to escape immediately. Why? Because the injured alien had just entered the place. That alien leaped toward Elizabeth to kill her. But just in time, she opened the chamber door, releasing the massive tentacled alien that was already inside. It immediately attacked the intruding alien and began pulling it inside, killing it violently. This gave Elizabeth a chance to escape. Now, she had no way left to leave the planet. So, she went to David and promised to repair him. But strangely, Elizabeth said she didn't want to return to Earth. Instead, she wanted to uncover the secrets of this alien civilization. David promised to help her. And with that, both of them set off together in a vehicle to explore the unknown. Meanwhile, back in the remains of the alien spaceship, something started stirring inside the alien's body. A mutated alien creature was now emerging from its stomach. This means the alien civilization is far from extinct. They're evolving, and in the future, they might bring even greater destruction. And that, dear viewers, brings our story to an end.